Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Donovan.
And I'm Jordan.
Join us as we go into the pages.
Podcast!
Do you think that in this world of John's, in his little corner of the galaxy, or whatever the crap you want to call it, do you think there's a dimension where Harry Potter and Hogwarts Legacy exists?
Totally.
We need to find it.
I mean, if you consider it like it's infinite, like they say, then that means that infinite possibilities means that everything's possible, right?
Yes. And if they found Sefwin's world, we can find the world.
Maybe. It took a long time to search through infinity.
I'm willing to do it. Well, welcome everyone.
This is the end.
To the last episode of the Frugal Wizard. It's going to be a short one, only a few chapters to cover, but some juicy stuff to cover.
Yes, indeed. So one thing I want to point out, we haven't pointed it out this whole time, but the chapters in this book are pretty cool.
You mean like how they...
So there's like...
chapter headings or whatever?
Yeah, so the chapter headings, there's like each one has a picture, but there's like lines, and they add a line for each additional chapter. And so like this 36 chapter, I can't tell, I haven't counted, but it looks like there's 36 lines or something on it. It looks pretty cool.
Yes, I agree. They got these rocks with some advanced stick figure on it. Well, we left on a cliffhanger that was killing me all week.
Yes, it was quite the cliffhanger.
Oh, man.
The boxing match of the world.
Yes.
Whatever this world's called that they were on.
I was thinking the augmented boxing matches must be insane to watch.
Yeah.
Thrilling, but maybe a little like intense.
Is he pretty brutal, especially because John says there's really only two rules when you're doing an augmented boxing match. I don't remember the first one, but one of them is just simply no unauthorized weapons. So there are weapons that are authorized. And John even mentioned earlier that because healing is so good these days, he's pumpy full of nanites and they heal you pretty much instantly. Like, you can do pretty much anything except kill the person.
Yeah, which...
So they get pretty
you
bloody.
Still do
brutal.
quite a bit of damage without killing you.
That's like I guess that's part of the appeal. I guess the people like watching things. And it seems like there is a lot of skill involved. I think you definitely have to know what you're doing. But also more, John says that this is the first sentence, augmented boxing matches are normally about extreme endurance. So it's just like who can land the most hits, and like he's even talks later on as they're in the middle of fighting that you have to try to hit vulnerable areas that normally you want to hit a vulnerable area because it hurts and it'll take the person out, but I guess that's still kind of the goal here. But basically the goal is to wear out nanites, so you want to hit them like somewhere where nanites are going to have to take more nanites to heal, more nanites to maintain. So I guess like John said his style focused on like mainly body shots, and he didn't really go for the head that often. When he was fighting, he just would pound on body shots, and I guess because that's where all the organs is.
That is true. That's where the organs are.
And it says like it was like a spectacular way, like when you win because someone's system finally just breaks down, which when your system breaks down, like nanites have been blocking pain, nanites have been healing, but once that breaks down, then I guess they just do go to emergency sustain life functions.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden that pain just comes crushing in and probably just knocks you out.
So we start this chapter off, well, with our little thing about the augmented boxing, but we see that Quinn is not a novice, and it makes it look like he probably wouldn't even needed John to throw the fight from before to win the fight, because he starts kicking butt is what I'm trying to get at.
So I think that, even though like the fights were rigged and stuff, I think Quinn would still like a competent boxer, competent fighter.
Yeah.
Because I think the skill needed to sell a fight as real but still have it rigged probably requires a little bit more skill than just trying to fight normally. Because, you got to make it believable. So there's like acting, and then you got to be good.
Yeah, and then on top of that, too, like as was mentioned earlier in the book, they have really good healing. So it's kind of like, why fake it when we can just heal you? So let's just beat this guy till he's almost dead.
Yeah. I think that was the whole idea, too, because Ulrich wanted... and John's even confused about this, he says, because he's like, why did Ulrich want to deactivate my plates when I like agreed to throw the fight? Like, I was on board with him. We were on the same page, he thought. And Ulrich's excuse, which now John recognizes as weak, was he wanted it to be more fantastic and more bloody and more believable. He's like, why? Then John realizes, like, wouldn't it be less believable if you have this fighting league where that's known for like extreme brutality and violence because you can heal and you have augments, and all of a sudden someone who's a champion gets even like a little more beat up than he should? Like, wouldn't someone notice? Like,
yeah.
So, and then John starts to get a little more suspicious, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yes, I also think Quinn definitely has to have some skill, because there's no way he'd be Ulrich's right hand man. He was just a pushover or something. Yeah. So I guess it makes sense.
But one thing about this whole fight scene that I don't know why just totally like took out the seriousness of the moment for me. I was just imagining like an anime fight scene, like full on like Dragon Ball Z. Because I don't know if anyone whenever you watch an anime and there's like the main characters and the biggest fight of his life, there's like, I swear half of the fight is him like thinking and like doing all these things like flashbacks, and there's like he's like doubting himself, and he's like getting the little butt just whooped and handed to him, and he's like has to like dig deep, and all this happens in this chapter. Like, John's just getting beat up, and he's like, I even like deserve to do this, like my dignity has been taken away, but I threw it away, it was my fault, and how did I think I could ever win this guy? How did I think I could ever do this? He's getting beat up, and then he's like and then he like it gets worse because his nanites and plating starts to fail. And so he's bleeding, and he's like getting more discouraged. And then there's like rattling at the door. And then Quinn's like, oh, Ulrich's here with his 2 soldiers. Like, just give up, Johnny. And Johnny's like, oh. And then he starts trying to find a way to escape. He's freaking out. And then he's like, I guess he's a little worried about Elstan. He's like, Elstan's out there facing down essentially 3 fully augmented. 2 of them are soldiers with plating and assault rifles.
And they're the ones who came through that. Are they a little more armored?
Yeah, he said they were in like full-on military gear.
Okay, yeah.
So not only do they have like the normal normal augments, but the augments that John has, the full augments, they also have like military plating on. So they're essentially wearing like 2 sets of armor.
Freaking good like Elstan.
It made me think of, I always, in Jim Butcher's Harry Dresden Files, there's a character, Michael. He's like a holy warrior. And when he goes to battle, he wears like old-fashioned plate mail, but he has a bulletproof Kevlar sewn on the inside of it. So that's kind of how I pictured these guys.
That's kind of true, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, another thing we find out is about John's deactivated nanites. Just kind of going back a little bit, then I kind of jumped really fast and far ahead because I got too excited about the anime fight scene stuff.
Yes, but like as they're fighting, what was it that?
Yeah, so Quinn finds out that he's like, you still don't have those augments back,
Johnny?
He's
kind of just jabbing at him, kind of, you don't have them.
Yeah, and then he's like, wouldn't mind throwing me that password, would you? And then there comes to light that Ulrich, when he had set the password, just did. We don't even know how long it was. He just picked random numbers and didn't even bother to write it down or try to remember. He just had no intention of ever giving it back. And so it kind of stuns John a little bit, and then we get a more anime fight scene where he's like, "This whole thing, even though I agreed to it,"
it just keeps going on and on. Gosh. I like his reaction when John asks for the code. It almost sounds like a mother's reaction, like, "Oh, Johnny, do you think we actually saved those?" Like that just makes me think of my mother. "Oh, Johnny, did you think I was really going to give you a cookie for after eating dinner?" Or I don't know. So poor John. That was kind of like all hope is lost now.
Yeah, but there's no chance of getting it back.
I've never tried to hack someone's code but I imagine it's hard.
I imagine it's pretty
I've tried
dang
to
hard.
remember my own passwords and gets crap, and I can't even do that. So good luck,
So someone's,
John,
like,
remembering some
random-
random
yeah.
thing that you.
Yeah, it's like, and it's random too. And it's not written down, so there's nowhere you can go to like try to steal it or find it. It's just
Yeah,
your guess is as good as the person who said it.
seriously. And the only help he's got is that if this is true, Quinn just says that the boss just picks random numbers. All he knows is it's numbers, but that's still so many options.
Seriously.
So, sorry, Johnny, but you probably just have to live without those.
And then we get the next anime monologue that's happening in John's head, because the door continues to rattle, and Quinn's like, "Give up, man! Like, if we're fighting and the boss comes in here, they're just gonna kill you. They're just gonna shoot you. Like, just give up. Lay on the ground and give up." And then John stands up and he's like, "I spent my whole life embarrassed by my art, embarrassed by my police school, and even when I was a good boxer, it was all fake." That's just what I'm picturing. It's just like this whole anime character just ranting on, and he's like, "Ah!" Because he's like, "My life was worthless, but maybe my death could mean something."
Oh my gosh. I feel like Brandon really was watching an anime or something. Right?
Totally.
You're making it too convincing. I do love how your impression of anime sounds like a sports announcer.
I know. I can't do those. I can't do those Japanese voices. Again, you can't beat those Japanese voice actors. Like,
that's as close as we can get.
that's what I imagine this whole thing to be. And so after all this monologue and thinking he's worthless and thinking the only value he can give is by dying in the noble causes, he runs towards the portal machine and punches it. So he punches the keypad where you type in where you want to go and how you want to do it and turn it on and all that stuff. And he manages to crack it in half and mangle the buttons before he gets tackled by Quinn.
Yeah. So his last ditch effort was to just prevent all these guys going back to their home dimension.
Yeah. And it's after this tackle that the pain comes in, because his nanites finally have to give full attention to keeping him alive until they stop blocking pain. And so now he's in agony, and he still has all that depressing. And then right at that moment, the door finally opens. We see Elston bloodied on the ground with one of the soldiers kneeling over him. And Aura kind of walks in and is like, like total boss moment, like, "What's going on here?"
Yeah. What's this? Sorry, boss. You got to swing at the control panel. Ulrich is going to be mad.
That's what I thought. I was going to be like, "You incompetent," and like kill Quinn.
Right?
That's my picture. But he was like, "No big deal. Like, we still have the beacon. Like, the another rescue team will come, and I don't know. He's been there for a month. So probably another month, another rescue team will come. So it's all good." And then John's like, "Dang it."
Yeah.
So, and another anime one's like, "Even after all that effort, your attempts were futile because I still have the beacon." I'm just making this whole thing an anime.
We got to redo this whole podcast on the book because we did it wrong, thinking this was some medieval thing about England, but it's really an anime medieval thing.
It's really, yeah. Medieval anime. Yeah. And if you remember from I think it was last week, we talked about this. Ulrich's plan wasn't to save the town, but was to join forces with the Vikings. But then the tides turn, obviously, because Stefan's like doing her thing, and she defies Woden. And
Yes, thank goodness for that.
yeah, seriously. And then they're all confused. They're like, the Vikings are being pushed back. I'm like, this crazy lady, this insane woman's running around writing runes on the doors.
Yes, which I was also glad. I mean, this kind of seemed obvious. You know, this whole book, Stefan has been like so scared of writing, like she won't write, and she was even horrified to draw a little because it was too close to writing. I'm so glad, and it's obvious that she would, since she renounced Woden, that she starts writing. I was like, good job. I don't know what the runes do, but yeah.
You go, girl.
you go. Oh no.
Yeah. And then, Quinn also stood up at this point when Ulrich walks in. And so John's just kind of on the ground. But then John stands up at this point, and he's like, "Let's go, Quinn." Another anime moment. How many animes, and people who know, how many animes have you watched? The hero gets the tar beaten out of him. He's on the ground. The bad guys are standing up. And then he like limps up and is like, "Oh, let's go." And they're like, fine. The bad guy. Like, how many times that happens in every dang anime I've ever seen in my life. The main bad guy he's totally like bloodied, has like broken arms and broken ribs and can barely see straight, but he stands up and is like, "I'm going to pull Captain America. I can do this all day."
Yeah. And it kind of seems like they always do. Like, there's even some animes where they get beat down, get back up, they get beat down, get back up, they get beat down, and they're like, "How are you even? What? I wouldn't be able to blink if I had taken a beating." Like,
he stands up, and Ulrich kind of hesitates. He kind of assumes, I think, at this point Quinn hesitates. I think he's assuming that Ulrich's just going to shoot John, but Ulrich's just kind of like, deal with him, Quinn. Like, just beat him up, kill him.
He really liked the idea. That's what I remember.
Yes, are you talking about John's idea?
I mean that Ulrich liked the idea of Quinn and John thrown down.
Yeah.
He wasn't concerned about the machine. He certainly was like, "Hey, I'm up for some sport right now." Yeah, he even says, "Come on, Quinn. It's only Johnny."
That's true. And Quinn's even like, "Don't make me do this, Johnny. Like, just lie down, take the fall."
Yeah.
But then he immediately attacks him right after he says it. So it seems like he's just trying to distract him. But then, of course, the hero comes through and slugs him right in the gut, and Quinn's kind of like, and his eyes widen.
Yeah. But what I like, I don't know if you skip this part or not, but what I like is what we read about a few, I don't know what chapter it was, but we read about like the probability in this world. And
Yeah, that's like right next. That's like the very next thing that's going to happen.
Okay.
But anyways, then we get the next. So this is the next total classic anime moment. The hero's beat up, and he like stands up, and then he starts to talk to the villain and explain how he's going to win and like how he can dig deep, like Yu-Gi-Oh, the power of friendship, or
oh gosh,
or Demon Slayer, just the power of trying to save his sister, or My Hero Academia, the trying to be a hero, like whatever it is. The hero always stands up and like has one last ditch effort. And John's he's like, I realized I suck, but I'm a really good liar.
Yeah. Yeah. His is kind of a stretch there.
Yeah. But he totally bluffs, and his bluff is, I guess that's kind of smart. You know, it makes sense. And he also, it comes alongside with his realization that the real reason, and we kind of alluded to this earlier, the real reason that Ulrich deactivated his augments is because John's the better fighter than Quinn, and that there was a chance that John would have actually won. And John even remembers, he has like a flashback, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, he has a flashback of when Quinn won, he was like relieved, like he didn't think that he would actually win. And so John kind of uses that, and then he's like, I just realized something, it makes me wonder. Like, you took my platings away. And like, he's talking about all this stuff he realized. And then he's like, I'm going to use the probability of this world to guess the password.
Yeah.
And Ulrich, it even makes, up to this point, Ulrich's kind of like just ignoring them, looking at the machine, like kind of poking around on it after Johnny broke it. But this even gets Ulrich's attention when he says this, because if you remember, that's what Ulrich is using this dimension for. He's using it to like win lotteries and
right.
gamble and all this stuff and just raking in the money. So he knows that that's like a very real possibility. And I got excited. I was like, oh, cool, he's going to get his augments back.
Yeah. But I mean, we should have known from past experience, like, okay, if that was a true thing, though, then when he guessed his passwords before, wouldn't he have gotten it? How many times has he guessed it now?
I don't know.
2, 3?
Yeah. He's brought it up a few times. I just really kept track of how many times, but
yes.
He brings it up again, yeah.
The point is, he's a good liar. And
Yep.
he convinces Quinn that he got his plating back.
Yeah. He even says, hit a string of numbers, password denied.
I love how it puts it too. That it just, it goes through the little thing, password denied. But then now look at that. Look at that. I can just imagine some snobby attitude like, look at that. Yeah, I got my augments back.
But it works. Quinn starts to kind of go a little freaked out. He goes on the defensive, and then John, what's the word I'm thinking of? Presses the advantage, takes advantage.
Yeah.
There's like a word though that says that. Anyway, whatever. John takes advantage of that, and he presses. Exploits. Okay.
Oh, okay.
he exploits that, because he realizes that Quinn believes that he actually has it back, and so he just goes totally crazy, and just starts another classic anime moment, pummeling the bad guy. Just even in this total defeated state, can't even hardly move or stand. He just pummels the crap out of Quinn. And now it's Quinn on the ground, and Quinn who's bleeding, and Quinn who's like moaning, and his nanites are all going crazy. And
his nanites are dying. He's probably getting all those warnings. You're gonna die. You're gonna die. You're gonna die. You're gonna die.
But Ulrich tries to maintain control by being like, Quinn, you're such a disappointment. And then Johnny exploits that too, realizing that Ulrich just wants to maintain power. He wants to maintain face. And so he makes it seem like John wants to take Quinn's place in Ulrich's organization or whatever. Because he's like, you got your new door guard, and like throws Quinn.
Yeah, and I like how he says, I told you I could beat him. Then he's really just doing what you said, trying to fake out Ulrich.
Yeah.
Should have let him prove it.
Yeah, Ulrich kind of falls for it because John's like, I told you I could have beat him. He's like, yeah, I should have let you prove it. Like, good job. Essentially, like, still trying to maintain face. Like, it was like almost like it was his plan the whole time. Like, he was like, this is exactly what I wanted to happen, Johnny. But yeah, Johnny picks up Quinn and he whispers in his ear. He's like, give my best to Tacy and change your life. Go to prison, but you'll get out soon, essentially. Start a new life. Don't do this anymore. And then he throws him through the portal, which is still set to show up in the police.
Yeah, so I guess he didn't.
Precinct.
I, for some reason, was thinking he damaged it and broke it before.
I realized at this point that he just hit the control panel. But then, we kind of skipped over this, but Ulrich did a voice command that said manual override and opened up another portal that he could work from. So he did damage it, but not enough to completely sabotage it.
But after he throws Quinn through, he finishes it off, stamps on the manual override.
Yep, and he also snatches the beacon. He grabs the beacon. So now he has the beacon in his hand, he smashes the override, and then Ulrich shoots him right in the chest. And then Ulrich's like, so you don't have augments, because it totally knocks him down, bleeding everywhere. And I was like, oh, that's it for Johnny. He just got
right.
shot in the chest.
I thought that too. I thought it was like, oh, this is how they're going to solve him being poisonous to this world. Like, he's just going to die. He's going to die the hero.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, great.
I'm like, oh, cool. I guess that's a good way to end it. Freaking Brandon. But yeah, then he like reroutes all the power of his nanites to his hand and crushes the beacon. Which, if you remember, the beacon's literally the only way you can get out of that or into
there's
that.
no one going to be able to guess the location of this place.
Yeah, we learned that from the excerpts of the Frugal Wizard book.
I love this part. This was, I should say this for the end, but this was my favorite part of these chapters, when Ulrich is like, don't drop it, and he's like, got this little anime, whatever you want to call it, like you've been saying.
It's totally anime, man. You
so
cannot convince me otherwise.
Yes, he crushes the beacon, and you hear, well, we read
a gunshot.
And I love how it's just one of those classics, like, you know, they do it in like Pirates of the Caribbean is one I keep referring to in Tress, but Pirates of the Caribbean, you hear a gunshot, but it's not the person you thought was shooting, and it doesn't hit the person you thought was getting shot. So Johnny's laying there, not shot, but Ulrich.
There's a hole in Ulrich's chest.
Ulrich's got a nice gaping hole in his chest.
You're like, what the what? And then his head vaporizes. So we're like, well, dang, so he's dead.
Yeah.
And freaking Elstan, rock star, love Elstan. There he is. He's cut up, and he has a gun with a severed arm.
Yes, so he got past the biometrics, which I thought was just awesome.
I'm like, who would have thought that would actually work? Just cut off the dude's arm, and then just squeeze his finger, and the gun will work just fine.
Yeah. And of course, John asked the question that we all ask: how?
I like
his answer is great.
He's like, "What in the ever-loving hell?" That's the perfect.
Yes.
And he's like, "How?" And then like we were going. Elson's response is pretty funny.
He just turns to him and says, "They didn't have bows."
Okay. Like that's how.
I guess the gun you just murdered the other guy with didn't work on you or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So we skipped over this, but. Yeah, the two soldiers are dead. Elsa killed the two soldiers.
If that wasn't obvious by the severed arm he was holding.
And how did he do that without them hearing or noticing? Like, the door shut again?
I guess they were just super focused. I don't know. I mean,
think that would've
you,
been-
you know, right? Like, let's think about Fortnite for a second. We play Fortnite, if you guys didn't know.
Yes.
But you sit there and you're just so focused on getting new weapons, getting shields and health, and opening treasure boxes and crap. Then you're like, grab the storm! You're like, I didn't hear nothing! Even though they give you beeps and everything when the storm's coming.
And then we got to look at our first look at Ailstan too.
Yes.
In the artwork, he's just holding that.
He's
holding the arm like it's the stock of the gun.
Yeah. He's a total hunk of a man, I tell you what.
Yeah, just that gun looks pretty cool. Dude, this is my first time seeing this. I listen to the audiobooks. I don't really see a lot of
I saw it weeks ago now.
That's a pretty cool looking gun.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Oh, and then
And there's another art, yep.
Who's that?
I don't know. Maybe it's Logna.
Yeah, it could be Logna.
Or maybe that's supposed to be Cephawin.
It's like some woman, but she has like goggles on her forehead.
Yeah, so
And like a staff. Does Cephawin ever carry a staff?
not that I know of.
And who's that like witch looking lady in the background?
You're asking too many questions.
It looks cool, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't either.
Then we get a random excerpt for the next chapter. Basically, the founder of the Frugal Wizard Company is like, you'll be so lonely because no one is your equal in the world that you go to. Which I'm like, okay, that's all right.
Even as you are a wizard.
Yes. And then we get the ever classic happy ending.
Oh, yes.
A few hours later, sitting on the docks with his woman making out. Doesn't get much better than that. I'm like, heck yeah, James Bond ending.
Are you sure you're not being dramatic? They just kissed.
Oh, it seems like a make out to me. Before that, yeah, he's like, they're just talking. There's a few funny lines. Like I like, apparently because his nanites were in such a state of emergency, they haven't fully healed him yet, and he has a cut on his face. I don't remember how he got the cut. I think it probably made like a punch or something.
Yeah, probably.
And it didn't heal, so it's gonna scar. And Cephawin's trying to convince him that scars are sexy, and he's like, "Are you sure?" She's like, "If you're not gonna have a beard, then scar's the way to go."
Yeah.
But then he even mentions, he's like, "Oh, the nanites will heal the scar, but maybe I can make them not, so I can look good for Cephawin."
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I think is kind of funny that he thought that way, considering what he's going to be thinking in a minute.
So like right here, this is totally a makeout scene. She kissed me, and her breath on my face, her lips on mine. That felt warm.
Yes, but it
Totally
didn't say her make out on me.
I'm saying.
Oh, fine.
Just saying. And Thought had to ruin it all.
I'm sure she
Is
took
there-
great enjoyment with that.
Yeah, she's like,
Ruining it.
she's a total perv, too. Did you catch this? She's like, you got whatever. I gotta say it. Dan. Oh yeah, so he kisses her again. Oh yeah, she's like, not that I mind. In fact, I enjoy watching.
Oh, gosh.
You two really should be more respectful. So I'm like, you freaking pervert. Aren't all gods and goddesses like totally like depraved sex weirdos?
Yes.
That's what it
I
seems
mean,
like.
were they like that in Warbreaker? Those returns?
Yeah, I think so. I don't.
Oh, it was the one.
A lot of them were.
The one. Oh, I
One of the goddesses.
One of the
ladies.
goddesses was like she would wear clothes that was practically pointless.
Yeah,
she was
like,
so exposed.
Why even wear clothes
Yes.
at that point?
And like you go and read some of the stories about like the Greek gods and crap, and it seems like they can't keep their pants on.
I know they're all about sex and war and blood, and it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Thog's Logna's no different.
I love this part because she calls John and Cephawin an ass. Because she's like, the Earl's dead, and we're gonna need a new one. But luckily, we have a perfect replacement. And they just assume that she's talking about Johnny, and Johnny's like, and then Cephawin's like, wow. She's like, I meant Ailstan, you ass.
But she doesn't say ass.
I know she says arse, but still.
No, she doesn't even say that. She says the ear thing, right?
I don't know. It's heirs. They say heirs. Heirs.
Is that what they said in that?
Yeah, because remember John kept thinking it said they were saying ears,
But it's airs.
but it's heirs, like
But
arse.
still. That wasn't arse or ass.
I think it's ass. I think it's funnier. I meant Ailstan, you ass. And they're like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. She's like, you're both idiots, but I suppose you're my idiots. And the Cephawin's like, we're our own idiots. I thought that was funny.
We're our own idiots. That's kind of true. She didn't with that kind of response.
And then we also learn how petty Woden actually is.
Which surprise, actually, that kind of goes in line with with the Greek god because they're super petty.
Yeah. We find out that the only reason he's been suppressing the people on Sephiwan's land is to show everyone what happens if you disobey him. That's literally like the only reason.
Which is so stupid.
Yeah. I do think it's kind of cool though, how because I think Odin is a Norse god, right? It's like a Viking god.
Yeah.
So I do think it's kind of cool how this take on how he became the Viking god, because he used to be like the god of these people who I'm assuming this is like Britain or Britannian people, but then betrayed them and started helping the Vikings, and now there's a part, I think this is in the next chapter, so I'm skipping ahead a little bit, where they're saying the people started, instead of saying our gods Woden, they started saying the god of our enemy Woden. So now I guess in this story that's how Woden became the Viking god. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
And we get another self-pitying moment from John, but it ends well, I guess.
Yeah, so Sephiwan leaves for some reason. She walks back to like the village. I don't remember why though.
Yeah, I think Logna or Thok, however you want to say, sends her away for some reason. Oh yeah, she says she wants to talk to John.
Okay.
And wants to talk to him, and John kind of takes I think he's trying to take it on the higher road. He's like, my presence here is going to kill you. Like, I can't stay. And he can't leave because he crushed the beacon in the portal, and he even says he's not smart enough to fix them.
Yeah.
And so he decides he's going to kill himself, which is not the answer, people. Just saying. And he's a total idiot about it because he wants to drown himself. And since his nanites are in... Apparently they have an anti-suicide
Yeah,
function.
that's what I wanted to bring up. I thought was super interesting. He says, but anyway, what you're talking about is it says, with his nanites dangerously low levels, they wouldn't be able to activate the anti-suicidal protocols or keep me alive once the water filled my lungs. Yeah. And I was very suspicious, like, well, it says it right there, but it took me a second to catch on. Like, wait, what did he say? Don't do it, John. But I kind of wondered why nanites have an anti-suicidal thing.
I guess
is there a lot of people trying to just end it in his world?
I don't know, maybe.
Or maybe they're just trying to...
Maybe it's more dystopian than it's letting on.
But
so they're sitting on the dock. I think we mentioned that earlier. And
have you seen the artwork yet?
I just saw it. I'm looking at it right now. But so John jumps in the water, but he's still really close to the shore, and it's like 2 feet deep.
Yeah.
And Thok totally just mocks him, and she's like, "You idiot!" Like 2 feet away, you can't drown in 2 feet of water.
I do love how like he's having this like serious moment, like I'm just gonna kill myself, woo! And then she's just like totally belittles him and just like,
I know, and he's like, "Can't you let me die with dignity?" And she's like, "Any dignity of this moment was lost when you try to drown yourself in 2 feet of water." So John's like, so he starts starting to walk towards the ocean, but then Thok explains some stuff. So Thok looks totally different than
my gosh,
imagined.
She picked a hideous form. Like, she's not just some old lady. She looks like a gremlin crossed with an old lady or something. She looks so freaky.
Right.
She's one of those like ladies who, if I was just walking around and not playing around or not paying attention, and I like turned a corner or something, I'd be like, like, holy crap, she
looks real bad.
She's so creepy.
Yeah. So like frizzy hair, super, super skinny. And then you got John there sitting on his butt looking up at her.
Yeah, and her like stooped over posture right there looks really odd too.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, you see people in that, like, it's not the fetal position, but it's like the fetal position, you're just stood up on your feet.
Yeah.
But she's not resting anywhere. That's what looks weird to me.
Yeah, she's
dumb as
holding herself up. I guess it's just,
so it's just super it's even
scary.
it's just the whole picture it's weird.
No,
John also looks silly to me. I can see why Sephiwan's like, well, moderately attractive.
Yeah, and then Logna kind of mocks John, but also explains that he doesn't have to kill himself in like a mocking way.
And I'm really glad that there was because I did not like his solution. Like, really, that you're just gonna kill yourself? That's dumb.
Yes, but it turns out that his presence will kill the magic of the area, but only if he stays in one place for about a month. Then it will start to kill it. And so he's like, perfect, because Sephiwan's a traveling scop. And so they never stay in one place for very long. And so it's like, perfect. And she's like, and plus, Woden doesn't like reminders that he can be defeated. and your presence causes him just enough pain that he'll stay away if you're there. But if you leave, then he'll certainly kill Sefwin. And so he's like, oh, so if I stay, then I can...
Yes. But the way that she says it, too, is like, she's not even like, well, if you stayed, you could save Sefwin. So she's more just like, oh, well, I guess Sefwin's just going to die. Oh, whatever, who cares?
It's like, carry on walking.
And John's like, what? Like, she totally just tries to bait him.
Yeah. And then John, of course, gets really excited because he can stay.
Yes.
And, he fell in love with Sefwin, and he likes the area. He finally feels like he's...
And he found out Jen's a jerk.
Has a meaningful life. Yeah, Jen, I hate Jen. I officially hate Jen. Like, whatever. I don't even want to talk about her. Like, who does that? Anyway, so he's super excited, whoops for joy. And I like the closing line of this chapter was so perfect. I loved it.
Yeah.
It's like, turns out, even a coward can save the world, so long as you leave him with no other options.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what happened to John. He was trying to run, but he couldn't, and so he
Yes.
just happened to do what he needed to save the world.
So then the last bit of art we get is those random... I still don't even know what part it plays in this.
Yeah, I don't...
But the guy, the naked giant with the beard covering his stuff, killing a dragon or something. And the wizard, and like... I don't know.
I don't even know. It's kind of funny though.
Oh, this is funny. He's like reading at the tree. I didn't notice that before. Being painted, apparently. Anyway, super weird. Don't understand it. And in the epilogue,
we get Logna's perspective on things.
yes, which is actually really interesting. First of all, John and Sefwin got married.
Yep, this is a few months later.
Which I thought
And
was
how we
quick.
learn is that we see Sefwin as a scop and her outlander husband. That's how you know they're married. It's just her outlander husband. But they're at a place called Treewall, and they're telling the story of what happened at Mailport.
Yeah, they become, not only is she a traveling scop now, but they're storytellers.
Yeah,
Which is perfect for John, I think.
exactly. Yeah, because he could probably spin the tale pretty good, and and Logna even noted that he was doing sound effects.
Yeah, that's one reason why. Like, I think being a liar makes you also a good storyteller because you got to come up with something good.
Yeah.
So he can tell a good story, but also he can make these sound effects. Like, what I imagine is Star Wars: The Return of the Jedi, when C-3PO is telling the story of, like,
I totally pictured that too.
like to the Ewoks. Like, the Ewoks are a primitive species, even though they live in this advanced world where, like, Star Wars. So, like, C-3PO telling the story. I love when they talk about Darth Vader and, like, they're all like,
Yeah, like, hey, that's all. They're like,
oh, yeah, like, even like the little baby is like cowering in his mom's armpit or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, we get a good perspective because she's watching the storytelling and she's kind of making some comments. She's like, oh, John does sound effects and thunder, so I don't have to call thunder. But she does make the fire flare when she's mentioned, and she's like, says she's making sure they tell her part of the story well. But I think an also important part of this perspective is that she sees the change in the people. Like, they start at the beginning of the story, they're kind of skeptical. They're like, okay, because they're still like worshiping Woden and fearing Woden.
yeah,
But they by the end of the story, they're like hopeful, and this is the part I skipped ahead where they're mentioning, like, they start to view Woden as the god of their enemies instead of their god who tortures them and casts them down or whatever the heck is going on. And apparently Logna knows how to operate a laptop.
yep. And the really interesting things that we learned about this is, like, Logna's a pretty all-knowing person, god.
Yeah,
Yes.
she says if there's a word that is spoken or said or something, that she knows it. Like,
Wasn't written?
written.
So there's a couple things. First of all, she knows the code to John's plates.
Yeah.
Like, she could anytime she wants.
I know, and she even says, like, if John had asked, I probably would have done it, but he
Yeah.
didn't ask, so...
It's like she mentions when he was playing Ulrich and Quinn, like, he could have asked her to do it, and she would have put in the codes, or she says she might have.
Yeah, she says
But he does it himself, so she doesn't give him the code.
Yeah.
So she seems, in her own little way, just as petty and as jerkish as Woden.
And she even said in the last chapter when she was talking to John, she's like, living for eternity gets really boring, and so you got to find little ways to entertain yourself. And so I guess that's what she's doing.
I'm glad these gods aren't real.
Yeah.
Gosh. We also learned that while she can be a jerk like Woden, she's also not a jerk. Like, we find out that she helped
Elstan
fight.
Turns
those
out that's
guys.
how he was able to beat those
Yes.
soldiers. He was
I mean,
able
he
to.
still is a friggin' way
Yes.
good, strong,
Yes.
skilled warrior.
Yeah.
She probably just had to help just a little bit.
She said that all. I think she said all she did was she deactivated the nanites.
Oh yeah,
of the
that's
soldiers,
right. That's what she did.
so they couldn't heal, which made her sick for weeks.
Yeah, which I thought was
Yeah.
crazy. She'd been sick for weeks after that.
Yeah.
But Elstan earned his victory nonetheless.
Yeah, but she takes the. It turns out John's writing a memoir on the laptop, and it's plugged in by solar panels. So for those of you who are wondering, isn't the laptop going to die? They have solar panels.
Yeah,
So
he was able to scrounge up some of the left technology
Yeah,
that obviously Ryan didn't take back with him when he rushed through the portal.
yeah. This is Ryan's laptop, and there's a bunch of encrypted files on it that John isn't able to touch. But since Logna knows all of the written stuff, she knows the password, and in there she finds, and this ends at a crazy, open-ended. Who knows what's going to happen? But she has this encyclopedia or whatever that has essentially the total sum knowledge of humans on John's world.
Oh yeah, that's something Ryan downloaded before he came.
Yeah, and Logna's reading through it, and she's specifically reading about other realities and other times, and it ends with her reading a section titled Dimensional Portals, Mechanical Schematics, and Repairs.
Yeah.
So almost implying that world is going to eventually start dimensional time travel, especially if they have the technology in the medieval times and a goddess that is reading and understanding it and learning it.
I actually was thinking not really the opposite, but I was thinking of something else. I was thinking like, oh, maybe one day she'll be like, oh, by the way, John, I know how to repair the portal. So if you ever want to go back, you can, like when he's like an 89-year-old man about to die, and she's like, oh, if you want to.
I wouldn't want to. If you spend that long there, you probably have like a wife and kids. And
yeah, no kidding. Definitely. But I'm just really just saying like, Logna will probably wait till a like you couldn't have told me that earlier type of moment.
Probably give him his plates, access to his plates, right? As he's about to die.
Yeah.
Or something.
One thing that was a little different about Woden and Logna is like the Greek gods always seem to have a rule, even though they're not good at following it. Like, never interfere with immortals. Let them do their own thing. They're be their own thing. We're not going to help them or take advantage of them or blah, blah, blah. Woden and Logna did not quite feel that way.
No.
Logna interfered quite a bit.
Yeah.
And Woden really just as much. And one thing I kind of just always curious to learn about, little things you just don't know when with stories like this, like what happened with Ryan and Jen. I mean, we know they went back to their dimension, but did they ever find out what happened with John? Did they ever try to get back?
Probably. I hope. I don't know what's going to happen too, because Jen even was like one of the reasons she gave for staying with John, even though she was cheating on him, was that Ryan was kind of boring. So who knows if she'll even stay with Ryan.
She probably ended up breaking up with Ryan, or maybe she decided to make it more interesting for herself and started dating someone else while still dating Ryan, and just
who knows?
Probably found herself an adrenaline junkie and stayed with Ryan or some crap. I also hope that in the years that John and Sefwin will be together, that he will give her more drawing lessons.
She does say, one of the things that we skipped over this, but she does say that she wants John to teach her how to write.
Yes.
And she wants to learn writing, and all the writing in his world and all the writing in her world. So.
Yeah. And holy crap, I forgot about this huge point. Not only does Logna know the code to John's augments, to his plates, to his laptop, anything written, and all the history, but she is the one who, like, gave John the code to get to this dimension.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I forgot about that. That blew me away.
To show up where he did.
Yeah.
Like in the field instead of by the portal. So.
Wasn't like even he, like when he was
like,
in his world.
He was like coming, and she like
I gotta read it now.
He like sent. I think she said she felt him coming. She didn't know who he was.
Oh, is that
but she sent him a beacon that made him land where he did. That's what she said. So that could mean he was going to a different dimension and got pulled into here. It could mean that he was heading straight for Ulrich's stronghold, and she pulled him away from it. Like I don't know. At least for me, it wasn't really clear. What was?
It's been 2 days since I read it, and I'm already forgetting. Gosh, I'm curious. You know, it's just mentioned that when when Lagna goes to read the laptop, she creates herself a body of a man. Or if he's as skinny and as creepy as the woman form he'd. And there we have it. The Frugal Wizard's Guide to Middle England. Quite the story. This whole book has kind of struck me as like an adult bedtime story. Like it's not like Brandon's other series where you're gonna have to commit a few weeks or a few months to read. Yeah. It's just like it's a one-off story like Cinderella, but for adults.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And it also makes me think of The Princess Bride again, just in the fact that like the grandpa reads his grandson the book in one night or whatever. Like this wasn't a long book. It took us a few weeks to get through it because we only going through a few chapters, but you could probably buckle down and read this in a night if you really.
Yeah, I bet most people have already finished this book.
100%. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it.
Yes,
nonetheless,
enjoyed our take, even though you knew it was coming before we did.
Yes.
Yeah, overall it was a good book. You know, I liked the character growth. I think Brandon Sanderson's just really good at developing characters I can relate to. I'm glad that John had a pretty happy ending. You know, he had to have some growth and he had to have amnesia. I wonder if he hadn't had amnesia, if he would have even done anything, or if he would have just.
I don't think he would have. If you want to know my truth, especially if like he learned that Ryan was there and Ulrich and Quinn, he'd been like, I just tried to escape these people, and maybe his whole mission would have been trying to get out of this world and back into another dimension of Ulrich's or something.
Yeah, overall really well.
Yes,
5 out of 5 stars.
Oh, we never talked about this actually. That reminds me, but John decided to give up his rating. He rated his rating system 5 stars, and then now he's not going to rate anymore.
Yeah, because he said the whole reason for a 4 rating was to find what he wanted in life, and he found it. Living in an alternate dimension with his girlfriend, Steph, when traveling and telling stories.
Well, now it's his wife.
His wife, oh yeah, his wife.
So yes, I thought that was funny that they gave his own system of 5 stars. But yeah, holy cow, I definitely enjoyed this book because
it was good.
Brandon he's just one of those writers for me anyway, where like I can't predict what he's gonna do. I think I know what he's gonna do, and then the left swing and I'm completely thrown off. But yeah, I agree.
For those of you out here who liked this who like this book and maybe who aren't super versed in Brandon Sanderson, if you like this more futuristic kind of book, there's another one you can read called The Reckoners. I quite recommend. It's really good. It's about superheroes and super villains, and it's really good.
And it's like in a futuristic setting, right?
It's futuristic. It's not super futuristic. It's like our time.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like super in the future, but superheroes essentially take over the world, but it's more like The Boys, if you've seen that, where like people with powers are
kind of jerks.
Not really good guys, and they actually turn into dictators and really bad people. So it's about a group of people who are trying to take them on and overthrow them. So it's really good. My wife and I I'm thinking about it because my wife and I just started reading the first book last night. So.
Oh, nice. Some of you guys finished Cyclonic and whatever.
Oh yes, that's another book if you like Brandon Sanderson and kind of like more like this kind of more of an easier read, but still a really good story. Definitely recommend Skyward series. It's really good. Space opera, I think is what it's called.
Space opera?
I think that's what the gold kind of books are called, right? Which is in space.
Sure.
Whatever it's called, it's in space. But they're still like magic. You know, you have what are called cytonics, and they can essentially teleport, which is that world's version of hyper jumping from Star Wars. So.
Oh, right, of course. Everyone has to come up with their own names on the copy. Well, we hope you guys have enjoyed this last few weeks.
Yes.
Of the Frugal Wizard.
And we want to give you more content, and we really enjoy going through books and talking about them.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun for us. We're hoping you have fun too.
And we're wanting to stick with Brandon Sanderson, and so we finished this one earlier than we did with Tress. And so we're thinking, while we wait for the next Secret Project to come out, we're going to go through Elantris.
We're going to go through Elantris. I'm excited because, well, I was going to say because I haven't read it before, but I haven't read Tress or The Frugal Wizard till now.
Yes, and it's been many years since I've read Elantris, so I'm excited to have a little recap.
Yes.
An interesting factoid, Elantris was the technically 4th book of Brandon's that I'd read. Mistborn was the first. And Elantris, I think, was also one of the first, if not the first, books that Brandon ever got published.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and it's Cosmere. So Same with Trest's Cosmere and Stormlight and all of that. So it is in there. And several things from Elantris are in one of Brandon's recent books. What's that Wax and Wayne last book called? Lost Metal. There's some aspects of that in the Lost Metal from Elantris.
And I didn't get any of it because I didn't read it. I
Yeah.
read the Lost Metal first.
And I think we'll get there, but I think that there's also some things from Elantris in Stormlight. But we'll get there.
Yes.
It's going to be good. Stick with us. Next week we'll get that going. It's a little longer of a book, so we might do a few more chapters.
Yeah, we'll have to read a few. We might have to go through it kind of quick, but
yeah, so it might be kind of a little different in the episodes. We'll still try to keep them about the same length, 45 minutes to an hour, and just see what we can cover, see what we can get through. We might pause Elantris and start the next secret project if we can't get through it quick enough.
Hopefully we don't have to do that.
Yeah, hopefully not. I don't think it's that long that we'll have to do that. But yeah, stick with us. Hope you join us next week as we go into the pages for Elantris.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
All right.
Thanks for joining us.
See you next week.
See ya.